The billionaire's son hid under the table, until the single mom spoke his language. The boy disappeared beneath the table before anyone noticed he'd arrived. It was a long walnut dining table in the private lounge of the Helmont Foundation, polished to a mirror shine, surrounded by leather chairs that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Around it sat donors, executives, and assistants, all murmuring politely while waiting for the host to arrive. Under that table, knees tucked tight to his chest, was 7-year-old Oliver Helmont, only son of billionaire tech magnate Richard Helmont. Oliver pressed his palms over his ears as voices layered into noise. Laughter sounded sharp, shoes scraped, someone's perfume burned his nose. The lights above flickered slightly, humming in a way no one else seemed to notice but that felt, to Oliver, like a mosquito whining directly inside his skull. So he hid. This wasn't the first time. Richard Helmont stood at the head of the room moments later, confusion flickering across his face as he scanned the chairs. His assistant leaned in, whispering urgently. He was right here a minute ago. Richard's jaw tightened. Investors watched. Board members exchanged glances. The billionaire who could command markets couldn't even keep track of his own child. Find him, Richard said quietly, though the edge in his voice cut sharp. Chairs scraped back. A few people knelt, peering beneath tables with awkward smiles. And then there was Mara Reyes. Mara hadn't planned to be here. She was a last-minute substitute, filling in for a community outreach coordinator who'd come down with the flu. She wore a simple navy dress and sensible shoes, her hair pulled into a low ponytail that had already loosened from chasing her 5-year-old daughter around that morning. She noticed the silence before she noticed the panic. And she noticed the table before anyone else. Mara knelt slowly, ignoring the stares, and peeked underneath. 2 wide green eyes stared back at her. Oliver flinched, shrinking further into himself. Mara didn't reach for him. She didn't smile too big. She didn't speak right away. She just sat down on the carpet. That alone made a few executives blink. Then, softly, she said, "Hi." Oliver didn't respond. Mara glanced at his shoes, Velcro, mismatched socks. She noticed how his fingers twisted the hem of his blazer again and again in a precise rhythm. She took a breath. "I'm going to sit right here," she said gently. "You don't have to come out." Oliver's breathing slowed, just a little. Mara shifted her legs so they were visible to him, keeping her movements deliberate. "It's kind of loud out there, isn't it?" Oliver's fingers paused. "It feels like the sounds don't know when to take turns," she continued. "All crashing into each other." His eyes flicked up to hers. "That's annoying," Mara added. "I don't like it either." Richard Helmont watched from across the room, frozen. This woman, whoever she was, hadn't dragged his son out. Hadn't raised her voice. Hadn't looked at him like he was broken. She was talking like she understood. Mara reached into her bag slowly. "I have something," she said. "Only if you want to see it." She pulled out a small set of noise-reducing headphones, scuffed and clearly well used. "My daughter uses these when places get too buzzy," she explained. "They help make the world quieter." Oliver stared at them like they were magic. Mara set them on the carpet, closer to him than to herself, then leaned back. After a long moment, Oliver crawled forward just enough to grab them. He put them on. His shoulders dropped. The room seemed to exhale with him. "That better?" Mara asked. Oliver nodded once. Then, very quietly, he said, "You talk slow." Mara smiled. "Not wide, not forced. I can talk slower. You don't look at me too much," he added. "I can do that too." From beneath the table, Oliver studied her face. "You're not mad." "No," Mara said. "I think hiding makes sense sometimes." Richard felt something crack in his chest. Mara glanced up briefly and met his eyes. There was no accusation there. Just calm. "He's okay," she said. "Just needs a minute." Richard swallowed and nodded. A few minutes later, Oliver crawled out on his own. He didn't go to his father first. He sat beside Mara. The meeting never quite recovered its rhythm after that, but no one complained. In fact, several donors seemed oddly moved. Later, as people filtered out, Richard approached Mara, his expression carefully neutral. "My son doesn't usually connect," he said. Mara shrugged gently. "Some kids speak different languages." Richard hesitated. "And you speak his." "I listen," she corrected. They stood in silence for a moment. "I'm a single mom," Mara added, as if explaining something he hadn't asked. "My daughter's neurodivergent. The world isn't built for her either." Richard looked down at Oliver, who was lining up sugar packets on the table with meticulous care. I've thrown money at every specialist, Richard admitted quietly. But he still hides. Mara watched Oliver fondly. Hiding isn't failure, she said. It's communication. Richard exhaled, long and shaky. Would you? He stopped himself. Could I ask you for advice sometime? Mara considered him, not the billionaire, not the headline, but the tired father behind the suit. Yes, she said, but not because of your money. He nodded, understanding. Weeks turned into months. Mara didn't become Oliver's therapist or nanny or miracle solution. She became something better, consistent. She visited occasionally, sometimes with her daughter, Sophia, who taught Oliver how to braid string and didn't mind when he didn't want to talk. The kids built quiet worlds together, pillow forts, cardboard cities, constellations drawn in glow paint. Richard learned to dim lights, to warn before touch, to wait. One evening, as Oliver sat under the dining table at home, not hiding this time, just thinking, he looked up at his father. She speaks my language, he said. Richard crouched down. I'm learning it too. Oliver considered that. Then he scooted closer. For the first time, he didn't hide. And for the first time, Richard understood that the most powerful thing in the room had never been the money, the table, or the noise. It was someone willing to sit on the floor and listen.